Dating simulators have been around for quite some time. You got bangers like Doki Doki Literature Club, Huniepop, and even games like Dream Daddy. Well, another banger decided to join the ranks, and it's Eternights. This time around, though, we have a blend of Devil May Cry, Persona, and with the, well, very nice blend of what players can expect with most dating simulators on the market. But in today's episode, we will be focusing on my very first initial impressions and thoughts regarding Eternights, and a slight spoiler, your boy's completely in love with this game. So let's move on to the overall gameplay mechanics. The gameplay is built like DMC. Remember I said earlier, this is a full-blown blend of action RPG, dating simulator, and it's a nice blend. But the gameplay is built like Devil May Cry, right? The combat is fun and fluid, and you do have ultimate moves as well. The combat is mainly showcased through your actual main character, the protagonist of the game, and he just has a simple sword, and right now I have a great sword as well, and it's very fast. Like when I say how fluid it is, it's very fast and fluid. You do also have a dodge as well, which every time you dodge, the game starts to slow down and you can inflict more damage, and you kind of get like a sixth sense of what's going on for just a small amount of time. But the ultimate moves reminds me of Persona's special attacks in game for like the setting up everything, casting, and the game does offer this badass scene which turns into a quick time event to make sure you get the maximum amount of damage. Probably by far some of the most awesome shit I have seen in quite some time. 2023 has been an awesome year for video games, and I fucking love it. So the next big gameplay mechanic that I want to talk about is, of course, the second part of this blend, the Persona. Persona is littered throughout all of this game. You can definitely tell that the Persona series was a huge, heavy inspiration for Eternights. So the game has multiple things that kind of segues back itself to Persona, unlike one thing, the dungeons. So the dungeon is the main gameplay for progressing the story, which is quite similar to the Persona dungeons. Like I think Persona 3, you had the Tartarus, Persona 5, you had the big castle, and so on and so forth. You can also fast travel as well in and out of these dungeons. So as you progress further in the dungeons, you can fast travel between different locations to make sure if you have to backtrack, and it also works as a save inside of that dungeon as well. Now the big, huge, heavy part of Persona, which is the overall bonds that are in this game. So if any of you have played Persona, you already know what I'm talking about, but I need to scoot you guys to the side, right? I want to talk to the other people who have not played Persona. So Persona has these things called bonds. Like I said, Eternights, quite similar. The bonding system was basically with characters you meet in the world. As you progress in the relationship, the bond gets stronger. The stronger that bond gets, the stronger you get as a character. It's a very two-way relationship here. So it's basically making the player really, actually progress these relationships, because the more you progress a relationship, whether you're trying to rizz up any of the characters depending on who you're playing as or anything of that nature, or just overall having that dating simulator vibe, then you would definitely want to. But just like in Persona, you do have relationship stats and social stats. So during your conversations, you actually do gain points based on what you say during that conversation. Now, yes, you can be a complete perv when you're speaking to Yuna, which I'll talk about her a little bit later, or you could be a complete jackass or a complete best person you can ever try to be. My particular gameplay, I'm actually being more on the nicer side, because I play it like if I was in this real life scenario. Like, this is not a bad route that I'm going. I want to actually do good with everybody, right? So speaking of the characters of this game, the three characters in this game is Yuna, Chani, and your main protagonist, which they do take on very, very essential roles during your time playing, as your main protagonist is your main fighter, as the enemies will only attack the player character. Yuna will be your heavy support, helping you with the heals and other techniques. And finally, Chani, right? Chani is your best friend in the game. His power is very simple, but it helps out greatly. The game does tie that into lore wise in the first few hours, so you can see why, but his main support is boosting your character through passive ways, and that right there is just like the perfect three people. Now, like I said, this game reminds me heavily of Persona. Like I said, it has those ties behind it because just like in most Persona games where it's more of a turn-based type of fighting, it is more of a action RPG, so everything is happening in real time. So just like if you wanted to utilize a character to actually heal yourself by using their persona, this is happening in real time, so it's a little bit more of a fast-paced vibe than Persona. I know a lot of people like that turn-based, but you know, this is a breath of fresh air overall for that action RPG sense of that. During outside gameplay, while you're traveling in a train, players can actually have their relationships with both Yuna and Chani, and in which both have different ways of furthering that, which segues me into talking about relationships, right? So the train is a hub for the main cast, and you can either scavenge the city for supplies with Yuna, or you could train with her with breathing, which is just a simple mini game to obtain more HP, more experience, etc, etc. Or with Chani, you can have him help you get better expression stats, or have him give you handy pep talks, which helps increase your stats. And you can also explore the wall, which is the dungeon for the game, similar to like Persona's 3 Tartarus section of the game. With that being said, you know, as you go forward in these dungeons, you always have to come back to the train to be able to, you know, relax, rest up, and further upgrade your characters, because the enemies do get increasingly hard. Now, I haven't reached the part where how in Persona 3 as the Tartarus kind of like weighs down your character, so you have to always take them back, because it's lore wise, but it still fits the same boat as the further you go, you need to step back and go back to your go back home, back to the school, X, Y, and Z to further upgrade yourself, because the dungeons will increasingly get harder if you do not do that, so you can't just bum rush through it. The game does do a good blend of mixing both worlds, so you can be able to chat and get back to make a stronger bond with the crew, or you can wake your word towards the wall. I do have major anxiety in the very first like 2 hours of the game, due to the fact of you have to improve your relationship with Yuna and Chani while you are awaiting impending doom in the 5-day time, as you can only do specific things at times of the day. During the morning time, you can be able to chat with the crew, further upgrade things, and at night, that's when stuff hits the fan. So during the day, you can also explore the wall, but at night, you can also scavenge supplies and do all that good stuff for you. The combat, like I said, very fluid. Skills are badass too. It does feel like you're in an anime, and I feel like that's the theme that they're going for. Now, that's kind of the theme that most dating simulators go for as well, as that more anime-ish theme. And when it comes to most of the things, like I said, there's no overall sickness, anything of that nature. It's just more like the game the dungeons get just increasingly harder. Now, I do want to talk about the graphics and sounds of this game. Very simple, nothing too crazy. The graphics, as you will notice, is anime themed, and that's kind of like how all dating simulators go. The music gives you a very chill and lo-fi, and I think the devs even made like an hour lo-fi mix, because the train and the actual doing the dungeons have this particular sound that is just amazing, in my opinion. It definitely fits the vibe that they're going for this game, and so far I'm loving it. Now, like I said, I'm only about 3 to 4 hours in, so hopefully I get to hear some more of their original soundtrack, because like when it comes to Persona, like as they take that as the huge inspiration for this game, Persona probably by far has some of the best soundtrack in gaming history. Some of the best. Like, that series is god tier. Persona 3 for sure. Like, it's whew, sheesh. Speaking of, side note, if you guys play Persona, any of the Persona games, shit, even the Shin Megami Tensei games, if you played any of them, Soul Hackers, we can call that in there too. Which one has the best soundtrack to you guys? I want you to let me know in the comment section below. But let's finish up with the video. So let's talk about the overarching story. So I'll be quite brief on the story since I'm still in the process of playing through it. I'm currently about 4 hours or so in. I'm enjoying the story so far. This is essentially a post-apocalypse story as the whole world has been taken over by a disease, or more like a huge pandemic, and it's our job to save the world. We come to find out that our character is the main way to save the world with this spiritual arm that we have. Most of this game feels more like a dating sim, so a lot of the choices and feelings of the story is kind of carried through you as the overarching player as you react to the situations around you, and definitely, of course, paying attention to the game. Now, my final thoughts or my final first impressions before I head on over to go beat the game and give you guys a review. Overall thoughts, Eternights is a rather positive one, as this game is a breath of fresh air for me. I love the DMC-like combat, how completely fluid the game is. I love having fun moments with the characters outside of combat. If you're a fan of Persona, the game has that same feeling to it as you travel through the walls, as like in Persona 3 or any of the Persona games. You have TARDIS as the games form the dungeon, but while you're trying to get to the end of the game, the true gameplay is what's outside of the fun combat and the dating sim part, as we try to further a relationship by doing what we get to get stronger, since the game runs on the Persona rules. Currently, right now, I don't have any dislikes with the game, which is why I'll wait until I actually beat the game and get my review, and I can see if I can find any cons. But right now, the game is amazing. As of right now, in my first few hours, I do highly recommend checking out Eternights. Currently, there is a demo for it, and as well as the game is only $30 MSRP, and currently on sale as of me recording this video, $27. This is definitely a must grab. If you are unsure from my video, then you have the demo to go check it out. Make sure to subscribe, because I will be doing a review on Eternights once I beat the game and covering more RPG related content, and also like the video. It helps out a lot. As always, it's been your host, KSDTV, here at Chaotic Inc., signing out. Peace.
Manifest. I don't sleep, that's so weak, don't plan to rest. I'm from a hood where you die if you don't pack a vest. No culinary degrees, but whipping crack the best. Chefing, hard times taught lessons. Praying every night to pull up in park Benzes. What's my home is what you call trenches. You wouldn't last a day seeing life through all lenses. It's all tension, no sun, and rain and plenty. Full-time job, still can never make a penny. I ain't